welcome back to the History of Humanics podcast. This is my final episode with a guest. It's been 9 episodes in now. I've had a number of people on, and today we have Naomi Graves, who just got the chance to get back out and coach a basketball game this week, which
Mhm.
I'm sure was very exciting for you. You guys won the game, which I know is very important to you. But other than that, how did it go? How was coaching with a mask and playing through all the restrictions and all of that? How was the whole experience?
I just think it was awesome. I can't put it into words to watch our team put the uniform on, get in the gym, have officials play the game. I think the COVID has tested all of us in a lot of different ways, and to see our kids, finally get on the basketball court after 58 days of practice, I mean, that's amazing. And it brought tears to my eyes to watch us compete. It,
Yeah.
it was just really special. And, you wonder what the definition of success is. We wanted to win, there's no question, but just having the ability to get on the court was, to me, huge. That was a
Yeah.
success.
Was it kind of nice? Like, I'm sure leading up to it, you obviously focus a lot on the basketball aspect of it, but was it kind of nice to take a step back and just realize, like, okay, like we actually played a game. Like, at
Yeah.
some point now, we can kind of return to normal and hopefully do this consistently.
Absolutely. I think with the team, I think that's what I said at the end of on the bus ride when we were about to get off. I said, honestly, you're winners, not only because you won a basketball game, but because you sustained the resiliency that we all need to get through this difficult time. And it's been highs and lows and frustration because games have been canceled. And, I really believe that these young women are special because of that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that was nice to see. I saw the post on Springfield Athletics, so it was nice
Yeah, it's
to
great.
know that more teams were competing.
It's
Uh,
nice to see it, isn't it?
yeah, it is. Hopefully, people can start getting back in the gym soon and see it in person
Yeah.
too. Be good for parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll get into humanics stuff, but I wanted to kind of stick on the basketball coaching front to start because you were humanics professor 2011, 2012, and of all the guests I've had on so far, I think you have one of, if not the most accomplished athletic background like yourself personally. So
Mhm.
people listening may or may not know that you played basketball at URI when you were in college. So how did you kind of get drawn to the game early on, and what brought you to URI? How did that whole thing kind of go down?
Right. Well, the irony is that I'm like Title IX. Honestly, I played 1978 to 82 at URI. And so Title IX was in the 70s. It passed in 1972. So I was the beneficiary of all the women who fought to have equal representation in athletics. So I went to URI on a scholarship. It was the first scholarship group to go. And I was really fortunate. And what drew me there into the game, the game brought me a lot. It brought me more than I can put into words, honestly. It brought me great people. It built my self-esteem, my confidence. It allowed me to feel um, whole in some ways. It's kind of a strange comment, I know, but when you find something and you're passionate about it and you're good at it, there's a sense of accomplishment about yourself that you get. And I was able to have that early on. And URI was a perfect match for me. It was a mid-sized university. I wanted to go Division I. I wanted to see, back then, really it was Division I or there was a Division III, but it was really Division I or Division II at that point. Division III was just evolving in athletics for women. And I was glad I played there. They were very good to me, and I've enjoyed, being part of that in my history.
Mm. I know you played at Hampshire Regional, so you were pretty local. Was do you have like other schools you were kind of choosing between with URI, or did you?
Yeah, back then you had to sell yourself a little more. They didn't come to your door; you had to go to their door. So yeah, I actually Springfield College recruited me, and I told them no. It's ironic, isn't it? It's really ironic. Harvey Shapiro recruited me, and hard. And I was here. Diane Potter. I played softball. Diane Potter. I came on campus and met with Diane to play softball as well. Back then, you did two sports, and it's ironic that I ended up being here as my culmination of my coaching career.
Yeah, I feel like you probably never thought as a high schooler, like touring the campus, that you'd one
Uh,
day end up back at it in the future.
No, but I always had this admiration for this institution because of what it did athletically and academically. And it was one of the best physical education schools in the country.
Yeah,
It was the Harvard of athletics.
I like that. That's a good way to put it. I haven't heard that phrase.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you finished playing at URI, and did you look for like avenues to play after that? Like I know there weren't like as many leagues for women at that time, so was were you searching for that kind of thing out there, and did you find any options?
Absolutely. I wanted to play on, and I did have some offers overseas, but back then it was very risky. There wasn't anything, there were a few opportunities here, but they weren't stable either. So and overseas was rough in terms of like there was no long-term contracts. You'd go over there if somebody good came in the gym and outplayed you, then you were done. But yeah, there were opportunities. I would have played on. I was just starting, I think, to get back in my rhythm. I had been injured my senior year and missed a couple games. I got my legs taken out and fractured both wrists. So it took me a while to get back. And then I just finally felt like I was getting back and my career was over.
Mhm.
So it was difficult at that point. So I think I would have played on if it was a little more secure.
Yeah. It's just crazy because, like, even now, like, WNBA players, most of them still play overseas, like, during their own off season, so it's
Yeah.
strange how, you kinda have to do that just to, like, make a living, so I didn't know how it was kinda situated back then, 'cause I know those leagues hadn't all formated, so
Yeah,
interesting.
it was crazy. The evolution of my lifetime with basketball, women's basketball has been crazy because the gains we've made just by opportunities has been amazing. I
Mhm.
mean, it's just totally been amazing for women and for girls now, the opportunity to have youth programs that never was there for me.
Yeah.
I learned the game through men. And actually I played with a men's ball, what they call the men's ball. I always say the balls aren't gendered, but I played with a larger ball. I scored my points with a larger ball, not the smaller ball.
You scored a lot of points with that ball, so
Yeah, it's funny how you think about it now.
yeah, so you end up back on the staff at URI for a year, and I know it was just 1 year that you were there, but, did you learn a lot in that 1 year, and is it something that you kind of had in your mind as you eventually came to Springfield and started building a program here? Like, what did that 1 year kinda do for you as a member of their staff?
I think that 1 year allowed me to transition from identifying myself as a player, right? Which is so different because as a player, your discipline is different than as a coach, right? It's harder as a coach. If you asked me today if I could go back to playing, I'd say yeah, because the nice thing about playing is that you just work on you, right? The thing about coaching is you work on everybody. So I think I got the chance to really get a sense of wanting to coach, but I never really felt like coaching was going to be a long-term gig. You know what I mean? I felt like, oh, 5 years. That's why I got my master's at Springfield and decided to go in adaptive physical education because I figured, I'll just do this stuff for till I'm like 30 and then I'll figure it out. I'll go back to teaching or something.
Mhm.
And I never did.
Right.
I'm still coaching. So I think the URI assistance job separated me. That was important. You had to have that year from when you play to coach. And then I think coming back to Springfield really influenced me.
Yeah.
Being around, getting my master's here, being around some of the best made me really realize that I wanted to try to be one of them.
Mhm. What was your kind of biggest responsibility that year at URI? Were you more like a recruiting focus? Was it more basketball stuff? What do they kind of
It was basketball stuff. I was on the court.
yeah,
Some recruiting, not as much recruiting, just because it was very different back then. So we didn't do the kind of road work. We did different kinds of road work, but my role was really working, on the court with my head coach.
yeah. Then you end up coming back to Springfield or coming to Springfield, I shouldn't say back to
Right.
Springfield, and you take over here. And once you kind of got into that role, like, was it overwhelming to try to start a program at first? Because like you said, it's a lot of responsibility. It's not just kind of on court stuff. There's a lot you have to do. So how did you
Right.
kind of attack that from the
Well,
beginning?
actually, I got my master's here, and then I was at Worcester Polytech for 6 years
Hmm.
before Springfield. So I kind of, I feel like I cut my teeth as a coach at WPI in the women's program there. I was an assistant athletic director. I coached tennis and women's basketball for 6 years. And then I came back here. So when I came back here, I was in the Northeast 10. And yes, it was hard because the Northeast 10 had all scholarships and we didn't. We had what we called the achievement awards, which only were need-based, not talent-based. They were kind of talent-based because you got to pick people and you often recruited people who had a need so that you get the maximum amount, but it was very different.
Hmm.
And so those first 4 years were hard. I mean, the program had been losing. They didn't have a lot of success. I had success in grad school here with the coach, Mike Thulin. And then he left and went to the men's program. I left and went to coach at WPI, and then I came back. And so, it was hard. I'm not going to kid you. I had not had a lot of failure in the game of basketball. I'd struggled in different ways, but when I came back to Springfield, it was really hard to lose for
Mm,
me
yeah.
personally. And I took that personally. Obviously, as a coach, you kind of take that personally. And thank goodness for the mentors of Diane Potter and Dottie Zanotti and Mimi Murray and Joel Daring and some of the greats, right? They would just keep me positive. Just keep going, Naomi. It'll get better, and it did.
Yeah. I feel like, especially too, as a young coach, like recruiting must be really difficult because I feel like that's something you just get better at as each year passes, trying to show people why they should come to you.
You do, and I think recruiting when you're losing is harder
Hmm.
because you're constantly trying to prove that you're worthy of that impact athlete, right? You're constantly saying, I'm really good, even though my record's really bad.
Yeah.
And that's a hard sell.
Hmm.
And that's a hard sell. And obviously, motivationally, the kids that played those years, I have a tremendous respect for. Michelle Cecina, our associate athletic director, she played for me, and we talk about that. It's hard, and you build a different kind of resiliency and character, and I think and especially around Springfield, success was everywhere, except in the women's basketball program.
Hmm.
And when I came back here, it was really important for me to make women's basketball be known on this campus. It was when I was in grad school. It was not that it was disrespected, but everywhere you look around you, the coach of the year, and they're going to the NCAAs, and you want to have success. That's
Right.
why I came back.
Yeah, absolutely. And shifting gears a little bit into your actual humanics work in the year, you were distinguished professor of humanics. One of the big like keywords and themes for that year was stewardship. So
Mhm.
for people who are listening, can you define that word and then talk about why that was such a big focus for you and why you kind of honed in on it in 2011, 2012?
For me, stewardship is a form of giving people the opportunity to learn from you and learn from their environment about important causes or themes. And for me, the stewardship was about humanics. Like I felt when I came back to Springfield, what people worked with me on was to help me define the humanics philosophy the best way I knew how through what I believed in.
Mm,
And so the stewardship for me was that I think as coaches, this goes back to my theme, was that as coaches, we do that every day. Sometimes that word gets intertwined a little bit with mentorship, right? But I think we steward, we foster by our actions, we foster by our lifestyle, we foster by our dialogue, the meaning of what humanics is, but based on our interpretation, but based on the culture of our campus. And I feel really strongly that as coaches we have an important role to do that in, because we want this to go on forever. We want to light the torch. We want to keep the torch lit. We want to have people leave here and understand humanics is a way of life. It's not just a symbol. It's how we choose to guide ourselves in life. And I think that's really what our forefathers and mothers wanted, is that it is not just a philosophy, it's a way of life, and one chooses to live that way of life.
mm,
And most of the people who come here have already some inclination about it because they've been through admissions educated on it, and it's drawing to them. But it's our job as coaches and as faculty and as administrators to continue to allow that philosophy to blossom and grow in the people that we work with and touch.
yeah, definitely. I don't know. I just thought of this during that answer. I meant to say this at the beginning and I forgot. Now you just brought it back into my head. I had Charles Reddington on last episode before this,
Yeah.
and every episode at the end, the guest introduces whoever's next. It's like a mini version of like what they do at the actual ceremony.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you you're doing it because there's no guest after you, but I had him introduce you, and he stood up, and the shirt he was wearing, he actually got from you. So he talked like all about that shirt. I guess he has like a couple of shirts that I don't know if like you directly gave them to him, but I think maybe you like designed the shirt or something. So he talked all about that. It's just
What
fun.
was it? Ask me about humanics, and it's not about me, it's about we.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. It was the me before we was the thing that, or we before me was the one that was sticking out in my head. I definitely know he said that. So he was all excited. He stood up and got like right next to the camera and showed me his shirt.
Oh, that's these people are they're some of the people that have been part of the humanics professorship are just amazing. Oh, every time I sit with them, I think I'm one of them. I don't understand. They're just amazing
Interesting.
people. I say that every meeting. I just am just in awe of them, and I'm blessed to be able to be a part of them. When I'm feeling a little down or frustrated about whatever at Springfield College, if I get a touch from Marty or I get a touch from people still on this campus, Sue Geyer, some of the people I totally admire, it makes my day. It just
Yeah.
makes me realize why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's interesting because like everybody's who I've talked to has like their own different view of humanics, but you all kind of like take your ideas and borrow from each other. Like you don't just go into the year and do your own thing. You kind of look at what years past have had and
Mhm.
kind of work off of that. So it's interesting how it's like so different but so connected at the same time. That's like one of the things I've learned the most through doing all these episodes.
For me, like going in on that, I hope it's okay to go off, but for
Yeah.
me, the teacher coach role at Springfield is unique. And most campuses don't have that where teachers, are coaches and coaches are teachers. I mean, we all define ourselves as teacher coaches, right, in our coaching culture, but we really do it. Like we're teaching 3 credit classes, students are touching us,
Mhm.
they're getting a part of who we are in a different way. And that was a part of my presentation is that I wanted to educate people, maybe I don't like to use the word the other side of campus, but in the other faculty areas, because I'm a faculty member, to let them know what we do. Because I don't know what they do. Certainly from Bob Barkman and Reddington, I learned a lot from them. Carol, some of the folks, I learned a lot from them about what they actually do and what they do to impart the wisdom of humanics in and on their culture. I think about that, and I think each one of us has chosen our domain to say this is how we do it. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the teacher coaches. I know you kind of dug in and did some research on some of the older ones at this campus, like Naismith, Gulick, Stagg, like names everyone would know. What sort of stuff did you learn when you were looking into kind of like their backgrounds and stuff that they did?
That they were amazing individuals who had the foresight and vision to come up with, like I think about Naismith and some of the pictures I came about where he used his wife as a person to demonstrate shooting technique. I think that's awesome. Do you
Yeah,
know what I mean? And that his gentle soul wasn't so much about winning and losing, but it was about decisions and finding a game. I'm like, wow. I look at some of the Stag and some of the people who were creative and inventive, and I'm just like in awe of them. They're doers, they're inventors, they're innovators, they're all that and then some, right?
yeah,
That's what I learned, and I learned how they did it with ease. And then the best part for me was when I started to really look into some of the things the women coaches had done or the women have done, because women weren't really prevalent in our history until a certain time, and
hmm
it's amazing to me.
yeah. And I know when I was looking into like the lecture and everything else, you had like some of your own personal like idols, heroes who had been distinguished professor of humanics before you. So then you actually getting named was kind of like the whole like experience of like I'm sure like you're humbled, you're excited, overwhelmed. I know everyone's kind of like freaked out when they first get selected. So what was kind of like the thought process for you after they had named you for that year?
Um, I'm sure most people will tell you how they got named, but our Gene Wild would bring us over on a phone call, and I thought one of my players stepped out of line or I was in trouble, right? And then she told me I had the humanics professorship, and I was like, oh my word, me? Why me? Most of us have said that if you talk to all of us. So, I think it's a hard question to ask, but those people in front of me, like I came back to Springfield to be called coach. So that's why I put that in my title. They call me coach because that word on this campus when I came back to Springfield and it still is, was really important.
hmm
It was important for me to be called coach. on this campus because the value system of this campus and coaching was immeasurable. No other place had it, not even URI.
Yeah. And you mentioned like think like something's wrong when they tell you that. That is what everybody said. They said it's like basically like being called to the principal's office and
Yep.
you start thinking like, what did I do wrong? What's about to happen? And then they just give you good news. So that was a big theme through the first few episodes.
Yeah, they give you good news and then you realize the scope of it and then you're like, oh my word, what am I going to do?
Yeah. Uh, Before you were named, like how did you kind of perceive humanics? I think the way everyone looks at it is a little bit different. And obviously, like you were humanics professor in 2011, 2012, and humanics looked a lot different then than it does now. Like we don't have the day out from classes anymore. It's kind of more
Mhm.
individualized events, a lot more up to what students want to do. But how did you kind of, view it and go about it in your own life? I know you'd been in Springfield for quite a few years at that point too.
For me, humanics, I'm more of a traditionalist. That whole spirit, mind, and body was really interconnected. Like for me, it never can get separated.
Hmm.
It's about the total person, the whole person, the circle, and the lifelong learning, the lamp inside. So, I mean, part of going and being named the humanics professorship was to read about it, to really have a sense of what the forefathers wanted this to be in their vision. And yes, it does need to change certain ways to accommodate the culture a little bit, but I think the core values have to be the same, right? To some level, right? That, I know they'll say spirit is defined in any way you want, I guess. And for me, historically, spirit early on was based in religion, which people struggle with now, but that's okay. And I think the mind and the body, like, I think there's a reason it's equilateral, and that's for me, that's just been what it is. I guess I'm a little old school, but I studied it. I studied Gulick, and they struggled with trying to find the right symbol and the right meaning behind what they wanted to represent Springfield College.
Right. Yeah.
And they really did. And I think they found it. And I think right now for me, that spirit, mind, and body, I kind of take that and I say this to my team. I want you to be at the end. My success is that your spirit, mind, and body is better, right? You've evolved, you've found your way, whatever that definition of way is, but it falls under what I consider that humanics, as well as being a good athlete. Like I want them to have the whole package.
Hmm.
I want them to have that understanding of the whole package, that equilateralness is important, that whatever you define as spirit and body and mind is important, and staying in those areas are important, and to recognize that you can't really separate it or you don't have the equal piece.
Hmm.
You have to try to find that balance, right? And the position of the triangle on the tip makes that. And the circle and the learning of lamp, those are all important.
Yeah, definitely. Now, how long did it kind of take you to narrow in like your focus of what you wanted to do and get a plan for the year? Because I know it's a lot of work and your other responsibilities don't stop. So it is
Yeah, it's
kind of
crazy.
like a lot after you
And
get.
it's intimidating. I was lucky enough to have a packed, house. I mean, the humanics lecture was a lecture nobody missed.
Mhm.
That's a gift, I think. The college represents, it's kind of like you said, back in the day, we had a day, there were constant things reminding, everybody has their own reasoning why it's separate. But I think it was just a really good way to go. So how did I narrow it down? I felt that I was given that honor based on what I was doing in the athletic realm. And so for me, what they told me is to pick a passion, and I picked teacher coach.
Mhm.
And I really wanted to look at part of my depth was how do coaches really keep that humanics theme in their coaching? Like, how do they do it with their teams? So I came up with that competition, the video competition amongst teams, on ways that coaches implement that philosophy. And everybody was totally different, right? It's totally different. And we did a little competition in video, and we had participants be athletes, and they had to go on and tell how do they go about it. And I also did, the faculty coach kind of setup. I brought that back in to bridge faculty into our athletics again, to have a better understanding of the relationship between everyone on this campus. So
Mhm.
those were important things to me. So I kind of fell into where I wanted to go. And that's what Bob Barkman told me. He goes, don't try to copy anybody, because you look at everybody else's speeches and you want them to be as good as theirs.
Right. Yeah.
And Bob Barkman said to me, Naomi, I'm in education. My passion is working with kids. You know, some of the other people, they're going to do other stuff. Dottie did I think she did Alzheimer's. You know, everybody does something different. You need to find your passion, because that's going to come through. And
Yeah.
my passion is the teacher coach.
Yeah. That's sound advice. Just go with your passion, kind of follow that.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
where you need to be. You mentioned the little video competition you had the teams do. That was actually the question I wanted to kind of wrap up with and talk about last. So I think like they were called like top tens is what they did.
Right. Jay
Still
Leno.
do you have like favorite memories that you can still recall from like those videos that came together? I'm sure that was a cool thing to kind of watch unfold as you were able to see them.
It was just really kind of intriguing. Yeah, the top 10, we did the top 10 from Jay Leno way back. That was one of the things, you know. Now it seems so, I don't know, ancient, but yeah, we did that, and we talked about how we were going to coordinate that, and we showed the video, and it was really important for me to show how athletics is still kind of taking that stewardship, right?
Mhm.
And passing the torches on, and then going back out, and I did some research with alumni. How, when you graduate from Springfield, do you take this humanics philosophy and you bring it to someone? So those videos were great, and the alumni video, which never really got totally shown, they were amazing. Like, because people go out and they coach, and they're coaching and they're teaching with the same premise that we have here at Springfield College, and that circles back to stewardship. Where
Mhm.
did they learn it? How did they learn it? What ways were it integrated into their experience here? And now look at them. They're taking it somewhere else, and the world's a better place because of it.
Yeah. Did you get every team on campus involved with that, or was it the majority of athletic?
I tried to get every team, but I'm going to be honest, not every team came up with their video
Mhm.
like all the, you know, like all of them were supposed to. I think some teams bought into the idea. We have 26 teams, so I think I got maybe 18, 19 teams.
That's a lot, yeah.
I mean, you had to buy
Make it
into
tough.
it, and everybody's busy, but it was really important for me to represent the athletic department in a good light, and to just the teacher coach, man, we do a lot. And I am always going to be saying that word to people. The teacher coaches on this campus sell the philosophy every single day with recruiting. The teacher coaches on this campus sell the philosophy all the time to their student athletes. The
Yeah.
teacher coaches are always on. It's not something that's on a letterhead, or it's not something on the door. It's something that we have to live. We
Yeah.
have to. We have to. We can't not do it, because we're bringing in the recruiting class, and they're coming here for lots of reasons. And part of it is obviously our humanics.
Yeah. It's like as we talked about off camera last week, it's been a different challenge this year with that whole
Oh my
recruiting
God.
thing with the COVID and everything else. So I guess new challenges still popping up all the time, even if you don't want them to.
Well, I think we're always tested, aren't we? That's
Yeah.
what I tell our student athletes all the time, that, you know, and I know Mary Beth Cooper has been really doing this. There's not a greater time than now for our humanics.
Mhm.
And so we can't lose sight of that. And, you know, there will always be challenges, and certainly no one could foresee the pandemic. Not a person in this world could see that.
Yeah.
But to hold together and to maintain that whole spirit, mind, body, it kind of fits into what we really need right now, doesn't it?
Mhm. I think so.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely. Well, this has been fun. I'm glad we were able to do it. You were right under the deadline. My last guest, I think I'll have on for this whole thing, and we'll keep it running forward. But my time's coming to an end, so I'm glad we were able to do it. And you're the only guest who won't do the little introduction for who was before you. But maybe they'll set something up in the future. There, I know there's still a lot of professors to go. It's a long list, but it's
Right.
good.
Danny, I want to wish you luck. I think this is a great internship project. What a gift you're giving. You know, I don't know where it's all going to end up, this video or, you know, this copy, but I just think that the idea that you wanted to do this is really important. And I can't thank you enough to having to be part of it. And I want to wish you the best. I hope that when you leave here, you impart on whatever goals you have, and that you'll be able to pass along that humanics as well.